Most doctors who work in actual hospitals and medical institutions have to show up to the office. We know that employees are more productive and more efficient when they are working in an in-office environment.
Once a feared force on the football field, Michael Strawn used to flatten quarterbacks. But today, on national television, he was the one getting flattened, this time by Karoline Leavitt. The former NFL star turned Good Morning America host thought he could waltz into the political arena and spar with Trump's fiery press secretary. Big mistake. Armed with scripted zingers and DNC-approved talking points, Strawn was unprepared for the verbal takedown that followed. Leavitt delivered a blistering rebuttal that left him visibly rattled, stammering, squirming, and out of his depth. So, what happens when canned commentary collides with unfiltered conviction? Apparently, a total dismantling.
We want to start with the administration's offer to buy with a mass buyout to federal employees out there. How many do you hope will take it? And by what percentage does the president want to downsize the federal workforce?
Michael Strawn leaned in with the smug confidence of a man certain he held the winning hand. He zeroed in on President Trump's proposal to shrink the federal workforce by offering buyouts to 2 million employees, a move he clearly believed would paint the administration as reckless, heartless, and anti-government. It was meant to put Karoline Leavitt on the defensive. But she didn't flinch. Leavitt came armed, composed, and ready for battle.
This is another promise made and kept by President Trump. He told the American people on the campaign trail that he was going to make our federal government more efficient and productive. And it is a fact that only 6% of the federal workforce here in Washington, D.C. actually shows up to the office.
She broke it down with calm, surgical precision. The president's plan wasn't about layoffs or mass firings, it was a voluntary buyout program, plain and simple. A strategic move to slim down a bloated, outdated federal bureaucracy and reward those ready to move on. While critics on the left cried foul and branded it draconian, Leavitt fired back with hard facts. Many of the targeted positions were obsolete, some virtually meaningless, and all of them siphoning millions in taxpayer dollars.
Middle-class Americans, our teachers, our nurses, our law enforcement officers who keep this economy working, show up to the office every single day, and President Trump expects that federal employees do the same.
She reminded the audience that this is what real accountability looks like. Government jobs aren't entitlements, they exist to serve the American people, not to bankroll complacent bureaucrats coasting through cushy remote gigs on the taxpayer's dime.
His order, as presented in that memo last night, directs federal agencies to come up with a return-to-work policy for their agencies. And if federal bureaucrats in this city don't like that, well, guess what? They can resign from their positions, and this administration is offering them 8 months of pay. They will be paid through September just to simply resign from their positions.
Karoline laid it out clearly. Core services wouldn't be touched. Only the excess, the fat and filler, was on the chopping block. In fact, the buyout plan was designed to reallocate resources toward what truly matters: national security, healthcare access, support for veterans, and law enforcement.
If 5 to 10% of the federal workforce resigns, it will save taxpayers tens of billions of dollars. And so, look, we want people to return to work. We have beautiful federal office buildings here in Washington, D.C. that American taxpayers are paying for. They should be used.
By the time she finished, Strawn looked completely blindsided. He hadn't anticipated her flipping the script and casting the administration as the only grown-ups in the room. She came prepared, with facts and hard evidence. As Strawn scrambled for a comeback, Karoline had already claimed the victory. But he wasn't about to back down without a fight.
Is there any concern that we risk losing people with years of experience like doctors and let's say scientists?
Strawn pressed on, confident he could unsettle Leavitt with another classic woke curveball. He questioned the need for doctors and scientists to show up in person. That's where he tripped, because nothing sounds more out of touch than insisting medical professionals diagnose patients from behind their laptop screens at home.
Most doctors who work in actual hospitals and medical institutions have to show up to the office. We know that employees are more productive and more efficient when they are working in an in-office environment, and that's what this administration expects, and I think that's what American taxpayers expect.
Leavitt didn't miss a beat. She tore apart the absurdity of that argument. Doctors can't check heartbeats or perform surgeries over Zoom. Scientists conducting vital, and often classified, research can't mix chemicals or run diagnostics from their kitchen tables. The push to return to in-person work wasn't some cruel mandate, it was simply common sense.
Don't forget, it's the American people who are funding this government, and they deserve people who are actually showing up to work on their behalf.
Strawn's trap blew up in his face. Instead of cornering Leavitt, he revealed just how little he understood about the very jobs he claimed to defend. Karoline seized the moment to define real accountability. If you're cashing a taxpayer-funded check, the bare minimum is showing up. Period. No blinking. No sugarcoating. She made it crystal clear, this administration isn't tolerating taxpayer freeloaders anymore. The era of cushy government jobs with zero oversight is over. What the woke crowd calls compassion, Leavitt called what it really is, laziness. Strawn's smug smile faded into a nervous twitch. But he wasn't done yet. He had one last card to play, and it was by far the worst.
Let's get to the funding part. The White House putting a freeze on federal assistance program. The federal judges put the freeze temporarily on hold, saying the government itself doesn't have the full scope of the programs that are going to be impacted. So what's your response to that?
With all his earlier moves falling flat, Strawn went all in. He swung the emotional sledgehammer, accusing Trump's administration of cutting programs for marginalized communities. That's when Karoline Leavitt brought down the hammer of reality.
Well, as I addressed in my first press briefing yesterday, this is a temporary pause on federal assistance and grants so that the Office of Management and Budget here in the Executive Office of the President can review all federal assistance that is going out the door.
She fired back immediately. The president wasn't cutting anything essential, he was slashing waste. Bloated, pointless, outrageous government waste. And it was everywhere. She cited taxpayer-funded studies on shrimp running on treadmills and bureaucrats pulling six-figure salaries while barely showing up. That's exactly the kind of nonsense this administration was putting an end to.
Again, President Trump promised the American people he would be a good steward of their tax dollars. And what we cannot do is fund programs that run contrary to the executive orders and actions that this president has already taken.
Leavitt made it crystal clear. The Trump administration was prioritizing the public purse and ensuring the government truly served the people. Nothing essential, veterans benefits, law enforcement, emergency services, was being cut. But the bloated layers of red tape, duplication, and pork barrel spending that had plagued Washington for decades were being slashed.
So there will be no more federal funding for DEI programs. There will be no more federal funding for the Green New Deal, which is an order from the previous administration that President Trump has rescinded. It would make no sense for American taxpayers to pay for policies that this administration is no longer implementing.
She laid it out plainly. The buyout program wasn't just efficient, it was compassionate. It gave federal workers a choice, rewarded those willing to move on, and paved the way for a leaner, more accountable government. And if anyone truly cared about underserved communities, maybe they should ask why billions had been funneled into pet projects and corporate handouts that never reached the people they claimed to help. Strawn was left blinking. His accusation hadn't just been disproven, it had been turned on its head. Instead of a noble truth-teller, he looked like a clueless defender of bloated bureaucracy.
So that's all this is, a temporary pause on federal assistance and grants so we can conduct a review of all of the money that's going out the door.
Karoline flipped the entire narrative. She wasn't defending budget cuts, she was defending basic common sense. She spelled it out plainly. The president wasn't going to waste another cent propping up broken agencies, failed programs, or ghost employees. Strawn just blinked. His argument wasn't simply dismantled, it was turned inside out. Instead of sounding like a caring truth-teller, he came off as a clueless cheerleader for government bloat.
And as I repeatedly stated yesterday, individual assistance, such as Medicare payments, Social Security benefits, welfare, food stamps, and Medicaid assistance will not be impacted by this federal pause. So the American people should not worry. If they're receiving individual assistance from the federal government, they will continue to receive that.
Leavitt ended with ruthless clarity. This wasn't about politics, it was about principle. And if the media wanted to cry over every dollar cut from wasteful programs, maybe they should start paying the bill themselves. Strawn's expression said it all. He came hunting for a viral moment but got a crash course in real leadership instead. Just like that, whatever credibility he had left vanished. By now, Strawn was visibly sweating, out of punches but too proud to quit. Desperate, he grasped at straws, delivering the segment's most humiliating flop.
Medicaid system was disrupted across the country yesterday. Online portals, they went down in response to this freeze action. So should that not have happened? And is that a sign of a chaotic rollout?
He claimed the Medicaid portal had been shut down. It wasn't even close. In their rush to corner Leavitt, they forgot the simplest step, checking the facts. Had they done that, they'd have seen the portal was fully operational, rendering the entire question irrelevant.
No, absolutely not. And I would like to address that. We were made aware of that immediately, and we amended the problem immediately. The Medicaid program is back up and running online.
Karoline Leavitt delivered the final blow with effortless poise. The portal wasn't just active, it had been upgraded for smoother performance. Services were more accessible than ever, and delays had been sharply reduced. The real problem wasn't the system, it was the bogus narrative pushed by careless media figures like Strawn. She calmly reminded him and the audience that the administration had no intention of blocking access to vital services. But spreading misinformation like this stirs panic, erodes trust, and is downright irresponsible. Strawn sat frozen, his big gotcha moment crumbling in real time. All he could manage was a forced grin and a quiet nod. Leavitt, cool and collected, stood clearly victorious. She didn't just defend the administration, she exposed the media's blunders in broad daylight. This wasn't a debate, it was a reckoning.
President Trump's nominee for Secretary of Health and Human Services has his confirmation hearing this morning. Well, his cousin, Karoline Kennedy, she's speaking out against him, calling him, quote, unqualified with dangerous and willfully misinformed views on vaccines, and that he is a predator. And what's your response to that?
I honestly wonder what Strawn hoped to accomplish with that question, other than trying to trap Karoline Leavitt. But here's the thing, Leavitt isn't some rookie who folds under pressure.
I would reject those comments fiercely. RFK Jr. is widely respected. He's a great man who has dedicated his life to public service and to research. He is pro-science, and he is committed to making this country healthy again.
She's sharp, composed, and completely unshakable. Once again, she proved exactly why Donald Trump chose her as his press secretary. With surgical precision, she dismantled Strawn's flimsy setup, exposing just how hollow and poorly constructed his argument was. The result? Strawn squirmed, visibly rattled as his big gotcha moment fell flat, a total tactical misfire. Leavitt then took a moment to highlight Robert F. Kennedy Jr.'s strong track record and significant contributions to health and science. Far from a fringe voice, RFK Jr. has spent decades advocating for environmental safety, medical transparency, and regulatory reform, challenging entrenched powers and sparking vital conversations in public health and scientific communities.